glamour capital of the world. Each year, over 8 million people journey here to glimpse this golden city where stars are born, dreams come true, and legends live forever. Without a doubt, it is the most famous city in history, eclipsing ancient Rome and Babylon in both spectacle and notoriety. Its sins, secrets, and scandals having rocked the world for almost a century. Since 1911, when the first movie was filmed during the Orange Grove here, the lives, thoughts, and images of Hollywood have shaped the way we see the world.
Oh, hi! I'm Patricia Christine. I'm your guide on this exciting tour through scandalous Tinseltown. We're going to visit all of those famous and infamous spots, the ones you've all read and heard about. The secret rendezvous of Marilyn Monroe and President Kennedy, the bizarre Manson family murders, the mysterious and unsolved Superman death, the haunted homes of Jean Harlow and the Great Houdini. Oh, it gives me the creeps just talking about it. Anyway, after we visit these sinful sights, we're going to relax and take a leisurely trip to your favorite movie star's home, see where they shop and dine, and discover some of the places where they've made movie magic. So, fasten your seatbelts and hold on tight. We're going undercover to explore the dark side of Hollywood. Of torrid affairs on the set are as old as Hollywood itself. Some have become legendary. Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor in Cleopatra, Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall in To Have and Have Not, Marilyn Monroe and Eve Montan in Let's Make Love. Marriages have been ruined by them. Careers have been made by them. Many on-screen love stories lead to secret off-screen affairs. That's when everybody knows something's going on, but nobody knows nothing about it. Suddenly, some scandalous headline flashes across the world. Rock Hudson beds Doris Day in Pajama Game. Bruce Willis moonlights with Sybil Shepherd. Barbara Streisand Miami Vices with Don Johnson. And we're all shocked. Can it be true? Of course. After all, this is Hollywood. But in order to have a secret affair, you must have a secret rendezvous. Let's go explore one love nest that was so scandalous that the FBI covered it up for over 20 years. Marilyn Monroe was Hollywood's sex goddess. No one before or after her has created such raw sensuality on the screen. She was the fantasy of every man's dream. When she sang Happy Birthday, Mr. President to John F. Kennedy in 1962, it was the most sensual public performance in the history of the White House. Marilyn had a way of breathing heat into the simplest expression, and her see-through rhinestone gown offered more than innocent innuendo. Little did we know that she and the president were already locked in a very steamy affair. They would secretly meet here in Pacific Palisades at Peter Lawford's beach house on Pacific Coast Highway. Or the president would somehow slip in incognito and join Marilyn in the bedroom of her Brentwood home. When the president finally broke off the affair, Marilyn had apparently become too hot to handle with her drug and emotional problems. The president's brother Bobby began having an affair with her. Marilyn was supposed to meet Robert here at a party on the night of August 4th, 1962, the night of her death. Instead, they reportedly met here at Marilyn's home on 5th Helena and got into a violent argument.
A few hours later, Marilyn was dead. What happened between the time of their argument and Marilyn's death has been the subject of much investigation. Did Bobby or the president order her death because she had become too dangerous? Had information crucial to national security been secretly taped in Marilyn's bedroom by the Kennedys' enemies? Did Marilyn know about the bug? Was she coldly injected with drugs to make it look like her death was a suicide? Is it true she had been pregnant only 4 weeks before her death with Bobby Kennedy's child?
It's impossible to say. So much information has been destroyed, lost, or covered up by the FBI and other government agencies that the truth may never be known. On the morning of August 5th, 1962, Marilyn was pronounced dead. She was 36.
But even in death, Marilyn Monroe, Hollywood's greatest sex goddess, would not rest in peace. Her body lay unclaimed in the county morgue until her former husband, baseball star Joe DiMaggio, had it moved for burial. Here, in this tiny, secluded cemetery, on the corridor of memories, lies the crypt of Marilyn Monroe. On the evening before the funeral, DiMaggio sat up all night next to Marilyn's open coffin, grief-stricken. The next day, fewer than 20 people were invited to attend the services at the cemetery's small chapel. The bitter DiMaggio, who blamed Hollywood for her death, barred all of Marilyn's Hollywood friends and kept her casket closed, her remains unseen. For 20 years, DiMaggio placed 6 red roses 3 times a week at Marilyn's crypt. In 1982, his love ritual suddenly stopped. If the old Hollywood was known for its tempestuous extramarital affairs, the new Hollywood is famous for its unmarried live-in affairs. When today's superstars do get married, it's often after years of living together in secret when no one no longer cares.
Take movie mogul Steven Spielberg and Amy Irving, for instance. For years, they lived together here in Spielberg's house on Amalfi Drive in virtual secrecy. When the media and fans finally discovered the relationship, the story broke like a lead balloon. It already seemed like old news. When Amy became pregnant with their first child a few years ago, it almost seemed anticlimactic that they weren't married. Just up the street is the home of Sylvester Stallone and former wife Bridget.
If the house looks like a virtual fortress, you're right. Those spikes on top of the fence are razor sharp and are designed to keep overly enthusiastic fans from scaling the walls. There's also cameras and listening devices all around the compound. Do you get the feeling Sly likes his privacy? I wonder if he's seen The Great Escape.
Sly and Bridget's steamy romance began when Bridget's very sexy photograph was delivered to Stallone's hotel room. He was apparently told that Bridget was an actress who was waiting to meet him in the hotel lobby. Stallone supposedly invited her up to audition for his new movie. Within an hour, she had the part. She must be a great reader.
Down the street from Spielberg and Stallone live Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, who also reportedly lived together for a long while before finally tying the knot. Goldie and Kurt recently starred together in the hilarious comedy Overboard. They seem to work well together and could become the hot new comedy team of the 90s. For the woman who seems to have everything, are babies on Goldie's horizon? Right off Sunset on Charing Cross Road brings you to one of the most infamous dens of iniquity in Hollywood, Hugh Hefner's Playboy Mansion. More rendezvous, secret affairs, and sinful liaisons have reputedly been initiated behind this gate than anywhere in Tinseltown. In the decadent splendor of Hef's mansion, countless young starlets are said to have met and been cast by producers and directors searching for a new face. Peter Bogdanovich reportedly met and fell in love with star 80s girl Dorothy Stratton here at one of Hef's opulent parties. But what about Hef himself? Is he keeping a low profile after his Palomary suit with former live-in girlfriend Carrie Lee? Reports are mixed. A few blocks up Sunset is Carrollwood Drive, where some of the biggest stars of the last 20 years have their homes. Even in his 50s, Burt Reynolds is still considered a hunk. During his peak with Smokey and the Bandit and Hooper in the late 70s, he was one of the biggest box office stars in Hollywood. Lonnie Anderson, the beautiful blonde television actress who shares his home with him, has been his constant live-in companion since his breakup with Sally Fields. After years of living together, rumors have it that Burt and Lonnie are ready to take the leap into matrimonial bliss. Will another Hollywood hunk bite the dust? Stay tuned for an update in Volume 2. Hot flash! On April 29th, Burt and Lonnie got married. Oh, Burt! Next door to Burt and Lonnie lives one of the most powerful women in film, Barbra Streisand. Streisand has starred in some of the largest grossing musical comedies of all time. Movies like Funny Girl, The Way We Were, and A Star is Born put her into a category by herself. Streisand now develops and produces her own films such as Yentl and recently Nuts. As you can see, Barbara likes to keep her private life private. But like Burt, she opened and closed her gates for us. Not far from Streisand's home on Monteville lived one of the golden legends of Hollywood, Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. Elvis Presley was the first rock star to become a major movie star. During his short lifetime, the king was a phenomenon. He was the most popular recording artist in the United States for 10 years running and was at the same time one of Hollywood's top 10 box office stars. Elvis, who also liked his privacy, lived here in this house with his wife Priscilla until his premature death in 1977 from a drug overdose. Priscilla, who plays the steamy Jenna on TV's Dallas, is said to still live here. Just off Benedict Canyon on Cielo Drive lies the secluded house where one of the bloodiest crimes of the late 60s occurred, the Sharon Tate murders. In 1967, Sharon Tate's film career was on the rise. She had just starred in The Valley of the Dolls, and her husband, Roman Polanski, was considered a hot new director. On the evening of August 9, 1969, 5 members of the Charlie Manson gang climbed up this steep embankment in the dead of night and brutally murdered 26-year-old Tate and her unborn child, as well as copyist Abigail Folger, hairstylist Jay Sebring, and 2 others. The secluded house can best be seen from across the valley on Bella Drive, in front of Rudolph Valentino's former home, Falconware. This private road leads to an electrified fence which fronts the house. By scaling the hill, the Manson gang avoided the fence and caught their victims unaware. Up Benedict Canyon is the bizarre, haunted house of Superman, George Reeves. In 1951, George Reeves was world famous for his portrayal of television's Man of Steel. 8 years later, Reeves was found dead here on his bedroom floor with a bullet hole in his head. The gun was found on the floor beside him, so the coroner ruled his death a suicide. But Reeves' mother didn't believe her son had committed suicide. She shipped his body back east and kept it on ice till she could prove he'd been murdered. Reeves' body lay unburied for 8 months until he was finally cremated and returned to Los Angeles. There he was secretly placed in an unmarked urn. Since Reeves' death, Strange occurrences have been reported in the house. Residents say the house is haunted by Reeves' ghost, who rains terror on the occupants. Is Reeves' ghost seeking the killer to avenge his death? Why do friends still attempt to contact his spirit in seances? Are they trying to discover the killer's name? When Reeves' mother died years later, she was still trying to prove that her son had been murdered. Ride of Benedict Canyon on Bedford Drive is the scene of one of Hollywood's biggest scandals of the 50s, the former home of Lana Turner. Lana Turner was one of the sexiest stylists of the 40s and 50s, whose off-screen life was as lurid as her screen one. It was Lana who was discovered sitting on a stool in Schwab's drugstore and became one of the best cheap broads in movies, wearing tight sweaters and slinky dresses, playing opposite such legends as Clark Gable, John Garfield, and Kirk Douglas. Married 7 times and involved in a number of notorious affairs, Lana shed lovers as quickly as leading men. None was as spectacular, however, as the affair with gangster Johnny Stompanato, which ended when Lana's 14-year-old daughter Cheryl stabbed her mother's lover to death in the upstairs bedroom during an argument. Although the coroner's jury pronounced Stompanato's death justifiable homicide and let Cheryl go free, many questions remained unanswered. Was Cheryl also Stompanato's lover? Did she kill him in a jealous rage over her mother, or did she actually save her mother's life by stabbing Stompanato in self-defense? In 1987, Cheryl published her autobiography, Detour, which tells the full, harrowing story. The list of stars who have died from drug overdose, alcohol abuse, or suicide reads like a who's who of Hollywood legends. Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe, Judy Garland, Billie Holiday, and the list goes on. John Belushi is among those fallen stars. One of the few comic geniuses of his time, Belushi was the rising star of Saturday Night Live and Animal House when he was found dead here from an overdose of heroin and cocaine. Did Belushi know death was waiting for him at the end of that last fatal injection of heroin? Probably. People who knew him said it was like he had a death wish. He was speeding along the fast lane, racing to his own funeral. In an interview shortly before his death, Belushi predicted, "I'm going to die young. I just can't stop destroying myself." On March 5th, 1982, at the age of 33, Belushi's tragic wish came true. In Hollywood, there are only 2 kinds of success. Artistic, that's what critics and friends say about your performance. And box office, that's what the public is willing to pay no matter what the critics say. Only one counts: box office. While rave reviews may make the heart grow fonder, it's money, hard cash, profit that makes Hollywood's big wheels go round. To get high rollers like Steven Spielberg, Eddie Murphy, or Sylvester Stallone to sign on the dotted line, producers had better be able to cough up anywhere from $5 to $10 million. Not bad for 8 to 12 weeks' work in a glamorous environment catered to by a host of assistants whose sole purpose is to cater to your every need. Of course, $5 million is peanuts if your film grosses over $200 million like E.T. or Rambo, or loses $50 million like Ishtar. So what do you do with all the millions you make each year if you're a star? Spend it, of course, on fur coats, fast cars, big mansions, and throw the most exquisite, decadent, glamorous, titillating parties in the entire world. Which is why getting a glimpse of your favorite movie star's home has been such an attraction since the stars began moving to Beverly Hills and Bel Air in the 1920s. Who knows what eccentric ecstasies are going on behind those impenetrable walls and tall, secretive hedges? Is this where Rudolph Valentino made love to Pola Negri on a bed of roses? Is that where Clara Bow took on, entertained the entire USC football team in a midnight orgy on her front lawn? Is this the house where Joan Crawford tortured her adopted daughter, little Christina of Mommy Dearest fame? This luxurious home behind me, Villa Rosa, for instance, is owned by Danny Thomas, TV's Bill Cosby of the 50s and 60s. 1187 Hillcrest not only has one of the most fantastic views in Beverly Hills, it is also one of its most beautiful mansions. How much is it worth? How about a cool $5 million? Ready to see some more lifestyles of the rich and decadent? Come on, let's go see Elvis and Priscilla Presley's honeymoon home. Just up the street from Thomas, here in 1174, Elvis and his young wife lived in nuptial bliss when the king returned to Hollywood after his stint in the army. Elvis's last Hollywood home was the one we visited earlier at 144 Montevideo Drive. 1 block west of Hillcrest off Sunset Boulevard is Palm Drive, where one of Tinseltown's hottest sex goddesses once lived. Here at 512 Palm Drive is the last home of Jean Harlow, who died of uremic poisoning at the age of 26. Jean Harlow was America's blonde bombshell when she married director Paul Byrne in 1932 at the age of 21. 2 months later, Byrne shot himself to death in the lover's bedroom. Harlow, racked with guilt, tried to take her own life the next day. Jean Harlow never fully recovered from her young husband's suicide. She lived here until her untimely death in 1937. Does her ghost still haunt the house as residents once reported? 1 block west of Palm on Maple Drive lives the oldest and most famous song and dance man in Hollywood, the venerable George Burns. Burns and Allen were the longest-running husband-wife comedy team to ever grace the stage and screen. A replica of their house here at 720 North Maple Drive was used in their highly successful television show. George, who has become famous in recent years as God, both for his longevity and crusty old humor, has continued living here since Gracie's death in 1964. Apparently, after 58 years of living in the same house, George is reluctant to move. Another recognizable mansion is this one west of Crescent on Bedford Drive, site of the popular film Down and Out in Beverly Hills. Is that Nick Nolte sitting under that tree? A few blocks west of Bedford on Walden is the mansion used in another box office smash, Beverly Hills Cop 2. We've heard Eddie Murphy, star of both Cops 1 and 2, lives up the street in a secret multi-million-dollar fortress in Bel Air. Off of Sunset at 700 Means Road lives one of Hollywood's greatest superstars, an actress who was once called the most beautiful woman in the world, Elizabeth Taylor. Taylor became a star at the age of 12 with National Velvet and has never looked back. Her string of successes includes Father of the Bride with Spencer Tracy, A Place in the Sun with Montgomery Clift, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof with Paul Newman, Giant with James Dean, and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf with ex-husband Richard Burton. She's won 2 Oscars, and in spite of indulgences with drugs, alcohol, food, and husbands, Liz once again looks as beautiful as ever. Did Liz take it all off in her new autobiography? A few critics say she's holding back some lingerie for Take It Off, too. Will the secret include recent intimacies with George Hamilton, Ted Kennedy, and Michael Jackson? We're all waiting with bated breath, Liz. Without a doubt, the sexiest, balding, pot-bellied, middle-aged man to ever grace the silver screen lives up here on Mulholland Drive, overlooking Hollywood.
Behind this enormous gate here at 12850 lives the elusive Jack Nicholson, the actor who recreated Hollywood's image of the leading man into his own image.
Nicholson's prestigious career includes award-winning performances in numerous films, including Easy Rider, 5 Easy Pieces, Chinatown, Carnal Knowledge, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and recently, Ironweed.
Will Tinseltown's most devilish bachelor ever marry? Will his long-time relationship with Angelica Houston lead to secret vows? It seems doubtful. Nicholson enjoys bachelorhood too much.
Off of Mulholland on Havenhurst lives probably the most phenomenal performer in music history, the eccentric megastar Michael Jackson. Michael's fantastic rise to stardom began over 20 years ago when Michael, at the age of 5, was the lead singer for the incredible Jackson 5. Over a 12-year period, Michael and his brothers became one of the most popular singing groups of all time. Michael then decided to go it alone, joining forces with producer Quincy Jones to create the historic Thriller album. Since the Thriller album, Michael went underground here at 4641 Havenhurst. As you can see, the complex is well guarded with numerous cameras, an electrified gate and fence, and round-the-clock armed security guards. Most of Michael's family reportedly live here when they're not touring, including superstar brother Jermaine and sister Janet. The complex is also home for Michael's many exotic pets, such as Louis the llama, Jabbar the baby giraffe, Thriller the Arabian stallion, as well as an assortment of pythons, a deer, a lion, and various tropical birds. Bubbles, his beloved pet chimp, goes with him on tour. Michael, who is super shy in person, is continually on the cover of tabloids and celebrity magazines. Michael's face has probably been the subject of more feature articles than his music. And after cosmetic surgery on his nose, eyes, lips, and cheeks, it's hard to tell where the new Michael begins and the old Michael ends. Still, for millions of women, Michael was and is as sexy and beautiful as ever. Is Michael ready to settle down with some nice girl his own age? Or will he continue to search for love in more experienced women? We will keep you posted. For now, Bubbles seems to be his closest companion. Another super cute, eligible bachelor who lives only a few miles south of Michael in Studio City is Family Ties star Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox lives here at 11922 Ashdale Lane, just 10 minutes from the NBC studios where Family Ties is filmed. He's said to be a serious, unpretentious actor who leads a quiet life and tries to be a role model for young kids. Another TV superstar, the lovely and classy Linda Evans, the pride of TV's dynasty, lives down the hill from MJ off of Mulholland Drive on Hazen. Evans, whose role as Crystal Carrington has catapulted her into stardom, is as beautiful as ever in her 50s. She's one of those women who seem to exude class. Evans lives here at 9115 in this pleasant house between Studio City and Beverly Hills. Not one to attract publicity, Evans' biggest headlines came when she kissed Rock Hudson on the set of Dynasty and later discovered he was dying of AIDS. Evans, it was said, feared it was the kiss of death. And Linda could easily have jogged over and blasted Hudson for keeping his deadly disease secret, as Rock lived only a few miles away, here on Beverly Crest Drive. Between 1955 and 1965, Rock Hudson was the #1 box office star in the world. He was America's most handsome leading man, whose list of hits include comedies like Pillow Talk and Operation Petticoat with Doris Day, and dramas like Giant with Elizabeth Taylor and James Dean. Rock Hudson lived here at 9402. He was the first major celebrity to die of AIDS.
His homosexuality, denied for decades by the studios, was finally beyond doubt. His living lover is reportedly still seeking settlement in a palimony suit. Not far from Rock Hudson's house are the ruins of one of the world's most phenomenal magicians, the Great Houdini. These crumbling stone steps and broken structures here at 2398 Laurel Canyon Boulevard is all that remains of Harry Houdini's multi-million-dollar estate. Houdini, who vowed to escape death by having his spirit return to the living, is said to haunt these premises and scares residents into moving. Has the great escapist really broken death's chains? Does his ghost still live here in the ruins? Neighbors say emphatically yes. When the stars want to get rid of some of their excess cash, they come here to Rodeo Drive, where many stores accept customers by appointment only and will close the entire store down for an individual shopper. Rumors are that Eddie Murphy and his entourage drop in periodically for the special sales on $500 ties. Just down the street from Paramount Studios on Melrose Boulevard is Nicodell's, a longtime favorite of many stars who work at the studio. And Musso and Frank's on Hollywood Boulevard is still the oldest and most prominent of Hollywood's hangouts, where you might catch a glimpse of a rising star. Hi! I forgot all about you. Look, I've got to run now. I've got a meeting with a big producer about a leading role in a Spielberg film. So until next time, here's looking at you.
I've walked the boulevard of 1,000 dreams, and every single one wasn't what it seems. I've lived the fantasy, seen my name in lights, but still the emptiness touched me every night. I needed something else to move me, something else to soothe me, something real to get me through my life. When you reach the top and you don't find what you want, when you reach the top, look in your heart. When the music